I do that.
I haven't seen anything either. I haven't seen anything. So
Okay. Just be quick. Ooh, I look fitter in that picture anyways. Okay.
That's funny. Let me just open this here so
so I
you
started watching
see.
the May lipedema roundtable, Linda,
Was fantastic. It was all about
and
pelvic floor. It was
I
fantastic.
I I'm so fascinated about the neurological things you were talking about. I haven't had the chance to dig into it yet, but boy, brain fog and neurological issues are a huge
Absolutely huge.
issue for us.
So that's why I've been studying, wanting to know more and more about the brain because of the Lyme patients I work with, Dercum's, lipedema, and aging population. I mean, all of the above, brain is really important, and there are a lot of things that we can do. They were talking about the color purple. There was a beautiful talk, and you'll hear it. I spoke about it during the roundtable, eating
Mhm.
foods, maybe I'll save tonight, that are purple colors. So eggplant and purple potatoes and purple carrots and there are polyphenols in there and proanthocyanins.
Cabbage, maybe
Yes, yes, and red cabbage and
tomatoes.
there's a lot of red. Yeah, they can be red or purple. And I even found a purple. Oh God, what are they now? I forget what they were. It's like little, and I found purple radishes, and then there's purple onions, and
Wow.
I posted it actually on my Facebook page, all the beautiful colors that I took. Came home and I made a rainbow salad, and then I made a juice. There's
Wow.
kale,
Wow. Was it
but
good?
those are polyphenols and proanthocyanins, which are fantastic for the brain.
It's certainly something that comes up often. People often in our community speak about this uh, and other nutrients actively. Yeah.
Right, right.
I think we're almost about ready. I'm sorry I didn't show you, but I feel like such a bum. I've been so sick.
I know you told me that's just crazy.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
Is anybody
Lifestyle of
else
a rock star.
online now yet? No.
I think Debbie stepped away for just a moment
I'm stepping back.
to see
Okay.
if there was anybody
Okay.
else
You get to see the
trying to get
decade
in and not
older
able.
version of me now. No, I'm not having any issues with the other panelists. I don't see any emails. I didn't dare go near Facebook. So if you've got other folks that you've invited and you were expecting them to be here, we do have 26 participants that have logged into the call. So I think we were going to do introductions anyways. So maybe we can just start with yourself, Ray, and Linda Ann, just letting it, if you don't already know who these two people are, you should. And tell us a little bit about yourselves, just to buy us a little more time till the rest can get a chance to join in.
Well, what I was going to do before we even introduce,
Oh,
I wanted
perfect.
to know with anyone in the chat, Where are you living? Where are you
Oh,
calling in from?
very good
Put in,
question.
yeah, put in the chat where you are because we'd love to know who you are and where you are. Hi, Kim.
Many of you are, and I'd also be
Belgium,
interested. I
Austin.
know Linda Ann and myself and a few others really, we tried to share this through our social channels. And if there's somewhere that we should have posted and we didn't, please just let us know again. This is the first one, so we're kind of just building that. And if there's somewhere we should share it, you've got a page I'm not a member of, perhaps, or Linda Ann, drop your page and yeah, let us know where you're at. And
So
I
that's
will let you know
great.
there probably are a number here as well. The times worked out very well for New Zealand and Australia. So I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure some of you are here as well.
yeah.
Oh, wow, wow, wow. And how often it is that we know someone on the call that we didn't know was going to be on the call.
I know. That's so
Oh,
great.
I hope so. I
We're up
hope
to
so.
30. Ooh, we should have like a competition and see who had the highest number. Good for I really appreciate
Yeah.
everyone coming here tonight and I
Well,
appreciate your patience. I see Stephen has joined us. Hi Stephen. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you guys for hosting this. Thank you, Ray, for setting everything up.
Awesome. You have the coolest hair, man.
Oh, thank you.
Do you prefer
Uh,
Steven or Steve or?
I usually go by Steve.
Okay. I want to be accurate because I don't like my full name, so it's Debbie.
Sure. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for making the time. For those of you that weren't aware, I did do a number of posts introducing a surprise panelist tonight, and very cool. I'm looking forward to your perspective. We're waiting for two others, and we were just at the point where we were wondering where folks were from. We've got quite a few here on the call already, and we're just kind of getting oriented, as Linda suggested, as to where people are joining us from.
And to let you all know that this, oh,
Low
Nick's there.
bandwidth.
Hi, Nick. I've got some of my patients there. Oh, Nick, I'm so happy you're there. Okay, so I just want to let you all know that this will be recorded and it will be posted in the in the Dercum's Disease Answers group and also in the new YouTube channel. So Ray will tell you about that. And maybe Debbie will post it. I don't know if you'll post it.
We're going to post it everywhere they'll take it.
Yeah. So that'll be really good. And then what we'd love you to do, we will have comments in the chat. So if you,
Everywhere we can get it.
yeah, if you have questions, I think it would be
Steve,
good
is
to put
there,
it,
is the
put it-
view something that we select, Debbie?
Oh, for those of you just tuning in, the view I have set to the speaker so that I didn't, for those attending, the participant view will see who's primarily speaking. It looks like Linda might have had a little internet freeze up there. Maybe not.
No,
Oh, you're good.
No, I'm
And
good.
participants can only see the panelists. So
Not
I've set this
working.
up just like the other roundtable, where the speakers are what you see on screen. And as a participant, if you can communicate with us through the chat, which is on fire right now. So keep it up, guys.
And
Go
then
ahead,
if
Linda.
you have any questions, if you could put those questions in the Q&A. And we also thought it would be good for you to put in the chat any subjects that you would like us to speak about in future roundtables or discussions. So that can go into the chat and we'll save the chat and then we'll look at that and see what we need to bring up. But if anything comes up as we're talking, please just put it in the chat and there are going to be people watching the chat and we will have a look at that, but the questions go into the question and answer.
Perfect. Perfect. I see Dr. Derek has since joined us. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. So we are waiting just, I think, for Amy, I think. I have 4 new names to learn tonight, so I know I'm going to botch a few of them. Apologies in advance.
Yeah, Amy Gray, Dr. Gray.
And I'm a talker, so Linda's hosting this one.
So, shall we start just introducing? Maybe
I think that's probably a good idea. And are you comfortable in
How can
introducing
we
the
see
panel?
the
Yeah,
other
I'm good.
panelists?
I'm fine. So I just
Perfect.
wanted to say thank you, Debbie, for all the energy that you've put into this and the emails
Yes.
and
Oh.
organization, and you're fabulous. I've known Debbie for years, and those of you who know her, she's just fantastic. So thank you so much. So I am so excited for this inaugural Dercum's Disease Roundtable. I'm very, very passionate about helping patients with Dercum's and with lipedema. I myself, I am a lymphedema therapist and I specialize in Dercum's and lipedema and also Lyme disease. And there is a crossover between Lyme and Dercum's, very, very much so. And I'm also a health coach. So I work very integratively with all of my patients. And I've been treating patients with Dercum's for over 20 years because Dr. Herbst was here in San Diego and she started sending me Dercum's patients when she was at the VA. It's a long time ago. And I learned in the beginning from the patients because there was no literature. So just a little bit about me, and I'm very excited to be here. And then, Dr. Steve, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what your connection is to Dercum's?
Yeah, sure. So happy to be here. Thank you again, Ray, for the invite. So I was one of the speakers at FDRS 2025. I'm actually a Dercum's patient and a research scientist. So I have 11 years currently of research experience working on cancer biology and drug discovery. So just hoping to, share my experiences there with kind of the group, bring that perspective in, but also kind of serve as a little bit of an interpreter between the patient experience and the clinicians, and try to kind of, refine the language and, refine, the steps that should happen next.
And your talk was so inspirational.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Derek, would you like to tell us what your specialty is?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Ellen Derrick, and I'm so thankful to be included this evening. Thank you for inviting me. And I look forward to learning a lot from patients and other panelists. Just to let you know, my earphones lost their charge, so I'm plugged. I'm attached to the wall. So if you see me moving, I'm just trying to balance the cord and my phone. So I apologize if you get seasick. And I hope to be a triple boarded physician this December. So I am boarded in general surgery and vascular surgery. I have a master's in public health and a long career of health outcomes research related to surgical quality and patient-reported outcomes. And I saw my first lipedema patient or fat disorder patient 6 years ago in my clinic. I practiced in Seattle and I kept waiting for a comprehensive medical care to develop that was outcome-based for lipedema. And I just kept waiting and it didn't, so far there's not a lot out there. So I went to get a board in obesity medicine. That's what we call it in the US. And I sit for my exam in October. And I am so passionate about Dercum's and lipedema. I don't know, it comes from deep within. So I'm just very grateful. I have a lot to learn. And I hope I can help ease folks' way with my answers tonight.
And the vascular system is so important for both of those illnesses. Debbie, would you I know most of the people know you, but still tell us about you.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess I kind of started as a patient. I do not have lipedema or Dercum's disease or anything connective tissue disorder, but I relate very passionately to this community. I used to be a big, heavy girl with a bad knee, and I was told that I was old and a knee replacement was my only option. So at 30, I got on my first vibration plate, which was one of two machines that kind of made all the research. This was long before Google and Amazon and any of that. So I was fortunate to be introduced to the technology. I'm not 250 pounds anymore. And I first found out, I've been a vibration plate specialist for just about 20 years. So I support all brands. I do some research, but the vast majority in this community benefit simply through movement they can tolerate. And my saying, and I nag all the time, is when you move, lymph moves. So that there's this mentality that these machines are very complicated, but in reality, whatever you do, stand, sit, squat, you're moving. So for many that cannot move or partake in traditional activities, it's just as effective as a symptom management tool as it is exercise for those that choose. I also specialize opposite end of the spectrum. I have another very large support group. This group is called Vibration for Fat Disorders, and we're about 21,000 members. So if Dercum's and lipedema is so rare, I don't know, they're all using vibration plates. But I also support a number of children's hospitals, primarily St. Louis Children's. I do a lot of pediatric post-recovery support. And I started as a homeschool mom, and I still am. So I'm just time in, and I've been very fortunate to work alongside and support people like Linda. And I just excel in the lipedema community because they've been very welcoming and very curious about solutions. And the vibration plate is helping many. I also do a lot of red light therapy, infrared therapies, anything that's kind of that, I don't want to say natural or alternative, but there's a lot of home therapies, and I help with how to use them effectively for the conditions, be it lipedema or Dercum's disease or related conditions. I help develop, let's say, protocols to help you be successful in whatever your goals may be. So that's me.
And Debbie was the person who trained me with my first vibration plate. Was it, what, 10 years ago? I don't know, 12, something
At
like
least.
that.
It was FDRS Dallas.
She got me started.
Yes.
So that's really great. And Ray, you have some goals and ambitions and ideas for this group? No?
I think what I hadn't planned on talking. Forgive me, I'm a mess. I've been sick for about 3 weeks. But beyond that, yes, we wanted to set aside some goals for this roundtable, and and mostly they're pretty straightforward. We want to encourage people to have a conversation, and for professionals to do this, so that I think we can develop a broader understanding of our condition. And what's very important to us and to me is that we become aware of therapies and treatments that can genuinely help us right now. These are not make up things. These are real, especially when we start talking about vascular and we start talking about urology and we start talking about the different therapies involved with manual lymph drainage. And I love that we are coming together. That was my biggest goal, is to bring us together to talk about Dercum's, and let's see if we can get some real answers to the community now. I think there's enough out here that as we start supporting more speakers within our group and within this group, I think we're going to see some miraculous recoveries. And I fully believe that. I'm not making that up. I think that we are to a point now with Dercum's disease that we have to start focusing on therapies that can help, and they're available. So I don't want to go on and on. Thank you, Linda.
And Laura said you're not a mess. She said you are beautiful. And Nicole said you are a light in the community. And
Oh, you'll embarrass me. Thank you.
So I thought that I would ask a few questions so that we can learn a little bit more about each other. So Steve, what research do you see on the horizon for Dercum's disease?
Yes, I think that's a really interesting question. I think the biggest one is going to be genetics and looking at genetics of, large studies, and trying to find out what actually causes the disease. It's kind of, the dream of the community, but it's with so many different patients presenting with so many different symptoms and severities and at different ages, it's most likely is not going to be a simple answer. And that's a frustrating thing to admit, but is a reality. So what that is going to require is a large amount of patients to get sequenced, and sequencing of not just, whole genomes, but also of the lipomas, angiolipomas, and abnormal pad itself. I think that's really where the field starts to make progress. This isn't something that's studied in the literature because people don't know where to start. But once you get, that gene of interest or pathway of interest, then the research starts. So that's really the first step. And then from there, once, you have the samples, once you have cell lines, then you can start to look for ways to treat it chemically. And I think that's the ultimate goal.
And that's fantastic. And what do you think of the study that is ongoing right now with the injections?
So I think that is an amazing first start. But again, it is a localized solution. I'm not too familiar with the compound. I've done as much research as I can, but a lot of it's not public yet. My understanding is that this injection will selectively kill fat in where it's injected. So if you have a my understanding at least, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong here. My understanding is that if you have a lipoma that is in a place that is difficult to surgically remove, this could be a way to treat it. Or if you have too many to surgically remove, this could be a way to treat it. So I think it's incredibly promising. But again, that research is slow, and it's slow because they want to make sure that it's safe. But I think there are opportunities for people to start getting involved and reaching out to recruiters for the study if they want to volunteer.
Because I remember with the Raziel study where they were actually injecting into each lipoma, and I remember sending about 5 patients to Dr. Herbst, and they didn't qualify because it had to be a lipoma that was separate, and most people they had it all together. So that was a shame. And then I think they ran out of money from that study. So so I know that you've started doing research. Is that
I started doing some, dry lab research, looking into, genomes where I can, and just kind of getting all the literature together to be as up to date as possible in the field. Right now, scientific funding is in a bit of a pinch, so I hope to be able to do more wet lab research eventually, or help guide it and help coordinate people and patients. But for right now, we're just kind of focusing on, getting the current information out to the public.
Oh, that's fantastic. And do you know, are there any genetic studies or trials that patients can join? Do you know of any?
I do not know of any that are official. I know Dr. Herbst is working very diligently to collect genomes. That is something that we've talked about, but again, there are a lot of limitations, and she's just one person, and also has an incredibly busy clinic. So the hope is that we can get people inspired that have the resources to do this. And my guess is we're going to need probably hundreds of samples to find something if it really is this complex. So that's, again, the initiative is there, and the resources are there. Sequencing has become incredibly cheap, at least, from the reagent standpoint. If I'm running sequencing in my lab, it costs me about $100 a sample to run. So if you're doing this with an academic center, that's going to be the way to go. But the question right now is, who has the resources to do that, and finding the lab that's interested in doing it.
That's fantastic. And I know that Dr. Herbst has been having many of her patients do see the sequencing, and she's looking very carefully at all
That's
of
good
that.
information.
Different
Thank you.
genes are coming up, and like the Alps, but we don't know yet enough, do we? They're not enough.
Right. And just as a researcher, you just have to caution, it's very easy to overinterpret sequencing data. And that's something that we want to encourage people to go out and get this done if you're interested. But don't make rash decisions based on sequencing data. There's so much that is unknown, and there's a lot of marketing that is done to sell these tests.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, though, these results will come up with some like a variant of unknown significance in a gene associated with this disease, and essentially what that just means is you don't know. And so until we have a really proper study where we have the patients, we have the controls, we have the sample size, I just really caution against overinterpreting it. Even scientists with the best interests at heart, fall down these rabbit holes and go down misdirections. So this is something that, again, is going to need a community effort.
That's amazing. And I know that, I know what I was going to say. It's fine. So that's really good. Oh, I know that with lipedema, we have maybe 10, 15 genes that we know, but that's also been slow, really slow.
Right.
Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. It's fantastic. I was really excited to meet you at the
Thank you, you too.
Dr. Derek, wanted to ask you how we know that vascular diseases are, the vascular is so important for Dercum's and for lipedema. And how might vascular dysfunction play a role in Dercum's symptoms?
I think that's a wonderful question. And I think one day we may say that lipedema and Dercum's are actually vascular disorders. That is my deep thought. And I thought I might be really out on a limb. So I ran it by Karen at FDRS, and she said, oh, by the way, that's also what I think. So I felt really good in my deduction after taking care of all these patients and trying to put it together. And they are absolutely linked. And I think that there is a microvascular connection and a macrovascular connection. And if you allow me, I don't know which is the chicken or which is the egg, but I think that the diseases often begin concurrently. And there is the microvascular portion has to do with the capillary permeability and the fragility. And that results in bruising, easy bruising. It starts the TNF alpha and the different cascades of inflammation. It's local at your tiny tissue level, and we have lipedema samples that demonstrate that that is the case. When these capillaries leak and the inflammation cascade gets started, the lymphatics also start to struggle, and they can start these little lakes around the fat cells themselves. And then the cycle of inflammation can wall off with the different fibrous tissue that we find. And also, I think, is probably part of lipoma. I think that's part of how those also happen. And that's at the macrovascular level. And what's interesting is that when the capillaries leak, you actually are going to create a time of venous dilatation. And this is a big physiologic leap, but it's really true. And it goes back to what we learned in medical school. Blood pressure is actually your capillaries that are controlling the blood pressure. And so if you have a venous leak and dilatation, it might be that dilates the larger vein, which will create macro dysfunction at the valvular level. And it's when we get to that macro level of dysfunction that the symptoms of leg heaviness, restlessness, and specifically the stairs, standing and walking up curbs. When that pain starts, that's when the microvascular has transitioned to the macrovascular, and now there's a cycle of venous insufficiency. And I hope that that was not too much mumbo jumbo. And so please send questions or comments. Thank you.
I think that's absolutely fantastic. And we know that in lipedema, there's definitely leaky lymphatics. And we also know in Dercum's, the little strawberry marks that people, where I always look when I'm trying to identify if it's Dercum's, I look for those little vascular strawberry marks on the torso mainly. So that was really, really fantastic. What kind of vascular studies or imaging could be useful for patients?
So thank you. So I think, so I've read a lot. I read a lot about what you guys are talking about. And by you guys, I mean all of y'all precious patients that are struggling with this disease and have so many questions. And one of the forums I ran across talked about full body MRIs. And I just, honestly, my heart broke in many ways because that's a very difficult test to get ordered or to get paid for. And I thought, well, gee whiz, we can write an ultrasound protocol for this. I'm an ultrasound expert. I trained where ultrasound was created for vascular disorders at the Strandis lab at UW. I thought we can do this. So I think ultrasound's the way to go. My ultrasonographer, Liesel, we wrote a protocol together, and we are happy to see patients. I have 3 current patients right now scheduled to diagnose Dercum's and help distinguish Dercum's versus lipedema. So I think one of my challenges, we were talking about the challenges with funding and the mapping. And I don't know if this is because I'm a lady vascular surgeon, and when I was created, there weren't many like me, and I decided to just keep going anyway. We are just moving ahead in analyzing this data with our patients, and our goal would be to present it back to the community at FDRS next year. And we will just, fund it, so to speak, with our work and also with our patients. And we're working on developing or standardizing the protocol, because if we can standardize it, then we can train other ultrasonographers, and now we can give physicians a tool. So a patient can say, I'm worried I have this problem. And the physician who doesn't know, much about the disease can say, there's a test we can order. Let's order that test, and maybe that will help us.
That is fantastic. I'm so excited, and everyone's wanting to know where you are. Can they do conservative treatments with you? So maybe you can put in the chat where you're located. Where are you located? I'd like to know too.
Oh, you're so sweet. I'm located in Seattle,
Oh,
Seattle, Washington. So we're kind of almost Canada. And yes, and folks do come, and I'll put in my clinic number there. And I'd love to see you. So you're welcome anytime.
and I think it would be fantastic for you to present at FDRS next year.
Thank you. I hope so. I'm excited.
So everyone knows as well, in the event, wherever I circulated it tonight, links that you guys provided to me about your contact and about me information, so you don't even have to look. So it's in the event, and I've probably been over marketing. I gotta get my thumb on Dr. Steve and maybe confirm some information from you. But I knew you guys would want to know, so it's already there.
That's great. Debbie, you're the best. So Debbie, I'd like to know, you're the expert. How does whole body vibration help with lymphatic flow and pain relief?
Well, I kind of got this part of the question meshed in with my intro, but it very simply is movement. And how much movement or activity any patient can tolerate is the hard part. This is not a red light, it's not a massage, it's to a degree physical activity. So where it can move you where you cannot move yourself if you're in a bedridden or paralysis situation. But if you are athletic and you exercise for purpose now, it can simply enhance and accelerate. It kind of turbo boosts the circulation and the lymphatic flow. And there are other perpetual or forever benefits. So things like better balance, stability, less brain fog, better mental, physical health. And a lot of people think it's associated to the machine, but all the effects of a vibration plate are the same reasons that exercise is beneficial. This just makes exercise or movement less impact, more effective in less time. And so many in this community are spending, and Marianne in Australia always said it the best. Everybody's talk about self-care. We got to do all this self-care time. We got to do all the lipedema and the Dercum's care on top of that. So if you can find a tool that helps with the symptoms, it can help you lose weight, gain muscle mass, bone density. That's a little more of a specific chat, but it's just something that on those bad days, you can still get the movement, you can still get the lymph going. I'm going to take this opportunity to clarify, though, on the hard part of these machines is you get this thing in your living room, and then what do I do on it? Do I stand on it? And most people that do not exercise for purpose, and I'm not trying to single anyone out, but most of us don't until there's a problem. So that's why we're looking at these machines in the first place. A bad knee, bad diagnosis. Most lack diagnosis. I would say in my group, specific to this community, like I say, we're just about 22,000. I bet 75% are undiagnosed. And the plate to me is just, there's other tools out there. But nobody's going to do the self-care for you, even when you have the diagnosis. So it's turned into a very solid community of motivation. If there are medical issues, I'm not medically trained. Everyone knows that, but I have been playing with these machines so long. There probably isn't a neurosurgeon or a rare disease on the planet I haven't connected, because people buy these low impact exercise tools. So just be conservative in starting, and I offer my group to anyone in this community for support, because it's not a 2-minute protocol that applies to everyone. It really depends on where you're at. So
And it's also wonderful for proprioception.
yes, very much so, very
You
much
know,
so.
yeah, that's where
I
you
would say my
are
average
in the
therapist, so there's using a machine at home, and I think where the success with vibration plates come is it is a quick thing. You know, you can put it by your kitchen island, and you know the bone density, the weight loss, are all of these things associated to a vibration plate, or did you just finally find something that you're willing to do regularly for 5 to 10 minutes a day, something that you can tolerate? You know, it helps the pain and it's something you can do that doesn't cause more pain, if you will. So, what in the scientific explanation, if we went there, a vibration plate superficially increases your exposure to gravity. And all my vascular surgeons, you know, what are the effects of our association with gravity? A vibration plate can take your physical mass, and instead of you having to walk around the whole block bearing your mass, you know, maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's three. So it can get those muscles to a level of fatigue and exertion. And, you know, standing upright helps the bones. It's not a setting. So I think people are doing tremendous with them simply because you start using it for the symptom management piece and you stick with it and progress, because if you start properly, it's not going to hurt you. And so many in this community have done something, overdone something, underdone something, and that fear, that stigma, makes you reluctant to do more activity because you don't want to hurt and suffer the next day. So it's been I've been very accepted to this community, and everybody puts up with my crazy. And you know, there's a lot of other medical conditions besides Dercum's and lipedema. It would be nice if everybody just had one diagnosis, not six or seven. But the hypermobility, you know, the MCAS, you know, just the short, effective nature of the plates is really the you know the biggest win. As if you could have one tool in your arsenal that's going to help the lymph, reduce the swelling, manage the pain, and it happens to make you stronger and function better. So that's where it's really taken off. And my nagging, I do coaching sessions probably once to twice a week somewhere.
And there were some questions about how many minutes a day should you do it? And can you do it with a hip replacement? And what brand do you recommend? I don't know if you want to talk about that here, but
You know, I'll make it very simple. It's not I don't set it and forget it approach. And all of my coaching completely contradicts every manual, every research protocol, because I've been doing this 20 years with broken bodies, not 35-year-old marathon athletes, if you know what I mean. Although I do have them too. So 10 minutes is typically, when you turn these machines on, that's the max time. So should you start at the max time? But I don't know you. Maybe, you know, it really depends. So time is not as important a lesson as first understanding, should you be active? There are contraindications like this, and I'll back this up with my experience on medical grade, not what everybody's using at home. The only real contraindication to vibration plates is the same contraindications to being exercising or being active. So you should have that conversation with your doctor, and it's really how much activity is appropriate, not whether you should or shouldn't be active. This is just a tool to be active. But there's manufacturers in the way, and not everybody understands them. And the problem with vibration plates, there's never been a study of anything more than over exercising someone. But the terminology, whole body vibration, is the same term they use in all that occupational exposure vibrational stuff. So there's this mishmash, especially with some of the new online intelligence tools, where if you don't read past the title of that study, you won't realize that it was a jackhammer or a tamper or a, you know, a long haul truck driver. The risk with vibration is always too long exposure. So 8, 10 hours a day for 40 years of your life. A vibration plate, in theory, the 10-minute thing came from some bone density study 40 years ago where a bunch of us went somewhere 3 times a week for 10 minutes. At home, I have people using it 3, 4 hours a day, but they build up to that. So be conservative in your time, your intensity. Join my group. I will support you for free. If you don't want to join my group or you hate Facebook, everything's on YouTube as well. Vibration plates are as misunderstood as these conditions. So we kind of have a harmony. And the last thing I want anyone doing is having a setback or a fearful moment where they're not comfortable using the device that you don't have me in your living room to assist you with.
And I love how this was originated with the astronauts and with because there's a G-force and the astronauts needed to condition their muscles. And
Yeah.
so I just love so many things come from originated from NASA.
And there's still ongoing research with NASA. To Linda's point, it was a recovery tool to reaccelerate that muscle tissue, that bone density that deflates at zero gravity. In the same time frame, and I know Steven is not old enough, Steve, but everyone else is old enough. Do you remember back in the 70s and the 80s how the Russians just dominated every Olympic sport? Well, they were using vibration plates too, but you're not telling everyone about it. So the Russians certainly propelled it. Um, the vast majority of medical devices in this country are purchased by the U.S. military for recovery. It's a catalyst. It's an exercise hack, and everything's just getting faster. You know, if you can get the same results in less time, you know. Anyways, I could talk all day, so I'm going to stop because this is Linda's wheelhouse.
So I wanted to talk to you as a lymphedema therapist, what the role, I had a question for myself too, what role does the lymphatic system play in managing Dercum symptoms and lipedema symptoms? So I have lipedema myself. I have stage 1. It is a progressive disease. It did not progress. And I do believe it's from all the conservative methods that I've been doing. I was diagnosed in 1992 when I was in Austria, certifying as a Dr. Vada manual lymph drainage therapist. But the lymph system is so important, and it's very important for Dercums and very important for lipedema. It's your waste. It's the elimination channels of the body. And we take out our garbage every week, and the garbage cans come and they take it away. Imagine if that garbage truck didn't come for a week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and all the garbage would still be out on the street. Pretty soon there's so much there, you can't get nutrients to the house, you can't get nutrients out. And that's how it is with our lymphatic system. It's responsible for eliminating wastes, for bringing good fluids to the body and to the system. There's also the fascia that are important, and I think in Dercums in particular, when the fascia, which is like it's like the scaffolding in a building, and it surrounds every muscle, every tissue, every organ. When that gets tight, and when you're not having enough fluids, it'll get tight and you'll constrict. And if you have lipomas, and there are angiolipomas as well, to Dr. Derek's point, then you're going to really have constriction. So doing manual lymph drainage and myofascial release is fantastic for Dercum's patients. And also I work with a laser, with a cold laser, to help with the lipomas. Sometimes I will use infrared light because it helps with pain and it helps with inflammation and it helps the mitochondria. But the main thing with the manual lymph drainage is we're helping with the inflammation. And when you help the inflammation, you can help the pain. And I know pain is huge with Dercum's patients. And manual lymph drainage has what we call a sympathetolytic effect. It calms sympathetic activity and brings up parasympathetic, which induces deep relaxation. I'm also a clinical aromatherapist, so I often will include aromatherapy either for the pain or for actually calming and helping people when they're depressed. So, and again, I could go on talking a long time about that, so I won't, because we have questions to answer as well. But the other question was what home practices, and I know Ray is really wanting me to talk about this too, what home care therapies or self-care practices can help to reduce the inflammation. Nutrition is key. It is everything. An anti-inflammatory diet, it is key. And maybe we'll talk about that more in another talk. But that is really, really key. And again, I mentioned infrared light, whole body vibration, foam rollers to help with the fascia and break down the fascia. Um, all of that. There's self-massage, dry brushing, swimming. I love swimming is so good. And even if you can't swim, even if you walk in the water. And Susan O'Hara wrote a book on aquatics, and she talks about what pressures there are the deeper you are in the water. And that's going to help your lymphatic system. And it also helps you to feel good because you want to do things that are really good for you. And the other thing, which I'm really trying to get better at, is sleep. Because when you have enough sleep and you have good, deep REM sleep and deep sleep, the toxins in your brain through the glial lymphatic system will drain and you'll have less brain fog. If you don't get good sleep, and I know in the Dercum's community, often there is disturbed sleep. So I think that should be a subject to talk about with all the panelists another time, the brain and sleep. But in the meantime, try very hard to get yourself some good sleep and inhale some, even if you get just some lavender oil, rub your hands together, put the lavender on and do deep inhales, and that releases serotonin and gets you completely relaxed. So I could also go on forever about that, but Debbie, should we talk about the questions in the Q&A?
Well, I gotta say, thanks for showing up, guys. We are at 50 participants. It's probably because I'm not talking and running the call. My calls could go hours. We do have 12 questions, so I would like to just first remind any of the participants that are maybe not so tech friendly. If you've posted a question in like the comments section, can you just copy and paste that in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen? We are not going to get to all of them, but that will give us a list that we can work with after the fact. Keep talking amongst yourselves in the chat. And many people are saying hello, high-fiving. This is great. And I think what I'll let Linda do, you can access the Q&A on your side. Why don't you pick a couple of questions while you're looking? I just want to add to something Linda brought up. Am I hearing that you use infrared heat and it's okay that people in the Dercum's community can use heat? Because, this is one of those stigmas I love to rip apart.
So it's interesting because I've got into big discussions with some of my colleagues about infrared light and lymphedema.
Yeah.
For lymphedema, we do not want any sauna, jacuzzi, heat at all. But I believe that the infrared light is good for lipedema, not for lymphedema, but for lipedema and for Dercum's patients. And I have a colleague who swears blind by the infrared sauna.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has to really be by how you are feeling.
Okay. And I'm curious, perhaps because this is not about lipedema. I literally had my members going today. This is about Dercum's. I don't want to talk about because for many of you with lipedema, what I'm so excited about is to a degree the Dercum's is related for many, but it's always been in the shadow because it's just smaller and it doesn't get the attention and the funding. But I want to have the conversation separate about the heat thing because I just find it is an individual thing and many are seeing tremendous results. But again, it's dosage, guys. Don't get it, you know what I mean? But I would agree with you. I've never had someone with Dercum's. I do a lot of sauna infrared educational videos and it's almost a go-to, especially if you're on the slimmer side. It just seems to be so soothing for the pain, the heat. Interesting. Okay.
So I don't know, maybe Dr. Derek can answer this. Are the MRI settings to search for lipoma the same settings in Europe, more specific in Belgium?
As far as I know, that the answer to that is yes, because they're called protocols, and the machine, each disease that a patient has that a physician's looking for will have a specific protocol for that modality. So an MRI protocol for lipoma, MRI protocol for pancreatic, mass, CT scan protocol for aneurysm. And those are published and fairly standard. If you're at a center of excellence, they may add an additional it's called time of flight, but they might add an additional phase to look more specifically at something. But in general, there is consistency with that.
Thank you very, very much. And then Anne-Sophie Joliet wants to, did you want to say something? No? Oh. What is the connection between Dercum swelling of tissue and heart failure? Is there some information available I can take to my caretaker? Can anyone answer that?
So I, oh, go ahead.
No, you go first.
So from my understanding of the literature, there's no direct link, but the inflammation can occur in both. So it can be linked just by mechanism. It could also be completely unrelated. But again, there's no known linkage to my understanding. The only comorbidity that I know that's associated is Dercum's and fatty liver disease. And Dr. Herbst has a research study on that that's been published.
Thank you. And then I think we all know the answer to this. What type of surgeon would typically remove a nodule lipoma from behind my left knee? My general surgeon won't work that close to a joint, and the knee doc says he typically refers those out, and they stick only to joints. I think maybe vascular surgeons. Well, I can answer that, but some people go to vascular surgeons and to dermatologists. But I have a friend who's a dermatologist who he recently moved here. It's my friend's son. He didn't know a thing about Dercums. So I've been educating him, and he's in San Diego here, and I want to really educate him because maybe he can help. There are not many dermatologists here in San Diego who do excise them. It can be quite painful too. Do any of you have any answers? Any to add to that? No, so I think we've handled that. Okay. Let's see. Whitney is saying that she lives in a small town and been unsuccessful in finding a doctor who's heard of Dercum's disease. How can I find a doctor or any resources in my area so that I may receive better treatment? I've been alone in my journey for over 10 years. I'm so sad. That is what happens. My diagnosis came from a doctor with interventional radiology and a genetics doctor. They help diagnose but do not treat. Anyone want to answer that?
Well,
And
hi.
Whitney, she's in
I'm
Iowa, if
in
anyone.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay, so this next year, and I'm working on, I'm getting my website, but I'm happy to come. If anyone has any groups that they would like a speaker to come, events to raise awareness about Dercum's, please invite me. I would love to come and get people really excited about learning and taking care of Dercum's disease. It's an important part of the work that we need to do to shine a spotlight on this disease so we can recruit the help that we need. And I'm not precisely sure of the telehealth rules because I've always been a surgeon, but I'm happy to, if you've had a diagnosis, I could do a telehealth with you. I would be happy to try to talk to you about where you are and learn with you and propose some medical therapy for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And Sophie Joliet wanted to know, what is your professional opinion on fascia therapy? Well, I do myofascial release, and I've been studying with John Barnes, and I'm actually speaking at the Fascia Society conference in August, and I'm speaking on manual lymph drainage, myofascial release, connective tissue disease, Dercum's and lipedema and pain. That's what I'm speaking about, and I'm so excited that I was accepted to speak. So yeah, if you look for a John Barnes fascia therapist, you can go to the website. That's a very good method of myofascial release. And then this one, I think, is for Dr. Derek. Is angiolipomatosis a vascular disorder more so than other types of Dercum's disease? If so, will treating as vasculitis versus an adipose disease make sense?
This is an exciting question, and it took me a minute to find the off mute. Oh gosh, I don't have the conclusive answer to this yet. I have spoken to researchers in Virginia that are working on making this link, but boy, it sure makes a lot of clinical sense to me that treating for a vasculitis would improve the Dercums. It just really does. And I could probably talk for an hour about why I think that and what we could do to help. But yes, I think they're totally connected.
And Elizabeth wants to know, how do we find a manual lymph drainage therapist? Is there a certificate they would have? Absolutely. You want a CLT, which is a certified lymphatic therapist. You can go to the Dr. Vodder School, Vodder. You can go to Close, Klose. You can go to Norton. There are good therapists who train at those. And then you can go to the LANA website. I am LANA certified as well, which is the Lymphology Association of North America. You don't want someone who's just done 20 hours of massage, lymph massage in school.
Ask in any groups that you guys are members of as well. Again, I mean, if you can deal with someone that's dealing with the condition and has, most groups now have started their own, list of professionals like Linda and folks like that. So you can see who's in your area. Ask in your social groups too.
I have a patient who's moving to New York, and so I looked on all the groups and I have some contacts, and that's what we do. We help. You're quite right, Debbie. We help, other people. So that's really good. And then we'll take maybe one more and then we should wrap it up. Are we keeping exactly to 6 o'clock?
I don't want to, I scheduled for an hour. I will always overstay a welcome if I have the opportunity, but that really depends on the rest of the panelists.
Okay.
Let's get to one more for sure.
Tammy Ferris wants to know, I would wonder about the connection with insulin due to increased insulin can increase inflammation and fat storage. Yeah, I lectured about this at the Fat Disorder Conference about insulin sensitivity, becoming insulin resistance, and then increasing TNF alpha and all the interleukin 6 and the inflammatory markers. Do any of you want to add to that? I'm sure you have lots to add to that.
Yeah, I can say there's definitely connections there. The exact connections are still unknown. Again, that's a lot of molecular biology that needs to happen. But there are known linkages between insulin resistance and increased inflammation. Also from personal experience, despite, a lot of, good diet, good exercise, my A1C was elevating just from having Dercum's disease. To the point where, Dr. Herbst, advised me to go on the new GLP-1 agonists. And those were amazing in increasing insulin sensitivity, decreasing A1C, and then overall reducing overall inflammation. When I was just starting them, these injections have, about a 5-day half-life. So I would take my injection on Monday and all the inflammation would go away. And then on Friday, Saturday, it would come back. And that was just until I built up that steady state tolerance. It was a cycle at 5 days, it would start to come back again. But there's definitely linkages there, even though they're not, officially published yet.
That's amazing. And then I think we can do one more. Lauren Shipley wants to know, why is it that sometimes lipomas do not show up on MRIs? I have obvious lipomas and none were showing up. They would on the ultrasound, wouldn't they, Dr. Derek?
They certainly would on the ultrasound. And I'm so sorry and disappointed that they didn't show up. And without seeing their protocol, I wouldn't be able to explain why. But what a miss, what a miss. So sucks.
Sounds like a topic on its own. Ultrasounds, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Well, we'll go through the chat and see what questions people want us to talk about. I've got a whole list as well, and then we can combine them all. There's so many subjects to talk about.
This is awesome. We are about 3 minutes before 8, and the first call is always, it's like the hose full of water bursting. So I think Linda's correct. We could probably do an entire chat just on questions. So I'd like to give the participants, if you do have a question, if you joined late, if you have something that Linda hasn't already addressed, please just go into the Q&A tab at the bottom middle of the screen. I'll give you some time. And what happens after this call, when I cut it, I get a separate download of all the questions. and we'll work through those. I'll get those over to Linda after the call, and we'll make sure we get some feedback back to you guys. So please post your question if you haven't had a chance to already do so.
And maybe what we could do, each of you could give like a closing message that you'd like to give to the participants.
Sure.
Okay. Steve, Dr. Steve?
Yeah, kind of the message, from my experience as well is, just trust your own journey. This is such a widespread, presentation of this disease that everybody's going to be unique. What works for somebody else might not work for you, and that's okay. Try not to get discouraged by it. One of the things that really helped me through my journey was learning the proper terminology for certain, ways to describe this to your doctor. One of the ones that keeps coming up in the chat is this term called hyperalgesia, which is something that is seen in Dercum's patients a lot. I know when I've had my own flare-ups and have, been, really struggling to get out of bed and just in immense amounts of pain, I've been dismissed as drug seeking just because doctors couldn't understand the level of pain that I had. But as soon as I learned that term and it became in my chart, which is a mechanistic hypersensitivity to pain caused by this disease, you get treated completely differently. So there's certain terminology that we can start to use and spread throughout the group that should hopefully help everybody with their treatment.
That's great. Dr. Derek, what would you like to leave everybody with?
Truly a big thank you. It means a lot to me that y'all invited me, and I'm so grateful I've had the chance to connect. And there are so many exciting things to discuss and learn and grow with this group and with this disease. And I would say, I would just leave with this. It's the most important thing that you can do from a how do I care for myself with a fat disorder. I always say that there's 3 rules. There's 3 categories: a body category, a chemistry category, and a brain category. And it's a lot to keep track of. But if you can do one thing every day, it would be the brain category. And the golden rule for that is to be kind to you. Be kind to yourself. I know you're kind to other people, but every single day you need to make a choice to give kindness to yourself, whether it's, an extra 5 minutes here, whether it's kind thoughts, whether it's calling a friend, whether it's writing a letter to yourself, whatever it means for you, please choose that one thing to do every single day. Remember, be kind to you. And that's the most important part.
Beautiful. And Debbie?
Keep moving regularly. As I sound like a broken wheel, but when you move, lymph moves. And when you have those bad days or those down days, don't beat yourself up if you're not doing your regular or are unable to. Do what you can. Be kind to yourself. I was going to say be kind, but she said it so much more eloquently than I would have. But we as women in particular, and a lot of my guys as well, everybody else is a priority, and you don't leave enough for you. So whether it's 2 to 3 minutes at the end of the day, give yourself a pat on the back. I know there's days we don't feel like we're taking, as many steps forward as we are back, but you are progressing. We are progressing. And I'm just really excited that this is finally being discussed. And I look forward to seeing where this goes for so many of you that have been waiting for this type of a resource. So keep moving forward.
Ray, do you want to say anything? Ray? Maybe not. Okay. Well, do you want to say anything? You're muted. You're muted. Okay. I can't hear you. Ray,
I'm sorry.
did you want to say?
Yes, I wanted to let people know that we do have the settings published in Dercum's Disease Answers. It should be, we've made a point to take the settings that are appropriate for each imaging technology to be able to see Dercums. So if you are approaching, it can be very difficult to get anybody but a provider to understand what you're talking about. They don't just understand. You got to try to talk to your doctor, not to the tech. The tech can't change anything, if that makes any sense. They see them. Trust me. Every image sees your lipomas. The technology hasn't caught up yet.
I really love that. And what I want to say in closing is that this is a devastating disease and it can be really tough. And I read some of the comments sometimes and I hear from some of my patients. Sometimes you just want to give up, but please don't. You have so much support and love. Just look at this panel here and raise community. And we are building a community here even more. And we will have more of these. And just please never give up. Always just look forward and look to your community because there's lots and lots and lots of support. And so remember that, don't forget to subscribe to the Dercum's Disease Answers YouTube channel and join the Facebook page, Dercum's Disease Answers, if you haven't already. And then we look forward to hosting more of these roundtables and getting more of your suggestions and, just be well.
I will get the recording up and posted and processed on Ray's behalf. Give me a couple of days to get this pretty and put some stickers and stuff on it. For each of the panelists, thank you so much. As Linda Ann stated, for those of us that have been in the Dercum's disease circle for a while, I'm so excited. I'm just so excited. So thank you for being here. And for the rest of you, we've still got 46 participants with us. I will let our panelists go, but if anyone does want to post a question or haven't had a chance to do that, I will give the call a couple more minutes here, and I will put all of the contact information in the details on the recording so you know where to go for more info.